Struggling to keep customers coming back? Wondering how to turn retention into real revenue? Whether you are just starting out or a seasoned business pro, join us to explore AI-driven innovations, churn prevention strategies, and customer success tactics that actually work. Welcome to Retain and Gain. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Retain and Gain. I'm Michaela, your host, and I'm very excited because today is a great milestone. Today is the first episode in our AI series, and I have a very special guest for you. I have JB from Evergrowth with us, who is an AI specialist, and we are going to talk a little bit more about how he got into AI and how he came up with an idea for Evergrowth and what it does and how it can help you. Welcome, JB.
Thank you, Michaela. Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So tell me a little bit more about how you got into AI. Why AI? What drives you to it?
Yep. So honestly, I was late in the AI game, and it kind of happened by accident. Obviously, I was, like everybody, following what's going on with machine learning on AI, but it was just much more like buzzwords back then. And a big part of our business and how we work with companies was to do very, very, very deep account research for mostly outbound team, like outbound sales team. And essentially the problem was that if you want to build an account-based sales playbook, a customer-centric sales playbook, you will have this very granular approach to kind of categorize the accounts that you target and the people, the persona that you target. And typically you can build really great GTM granular playbooks, but when you go back to your Zoom Info or your LinkedIn Sales Navigators, they don't have the filters you need, right? Because their filters is industries, employee size, country, and what you need is way more granular. So a big part of our business was to actually build playbooks that which we called lead research specialists could follow to kind of research the data and put back companies into the right buckets, and then also put some research data that could come from annual report or 10K reports in the US, but it could also be researching some different part of the website or the internet or finding a podcast from an executive and stuff like that, right? Extracting insights and giving it back to the sales team. And obviously we were always using different type of technologies and tools to make our research team more efficient. And in November 23, OpenAI released the API access to their 3.5 GPT model. And so we started to play with it. And by accident, we created an agent. We didn't even know that was called an agent back then, but we created an agent that was able to reproduce 1 week of research in 20 minutes.
Wow.
And yeah, and so that's exactly what happened. We had this wow moment, but we also had this, excuse my French, but we had this what the fuck moment because we're like, we just killed our business, obviously. We had 70 people doing the research that were outsourced to different companies. And it was pretty obvious that agents was way more efficient, way more scalable, and way more everything. And that's when we took that leap of faith and transformed the business from a consulting outsourced business to an account-based AI research platform, basically.
So you just said that you got into it in 2023 and
Yes.
you utilized ChatGPT. So with Copilot, how do you think people can because obviously everyone uses ChatGPT nowadays.
Yeah.
So what problems people run into with ChatGPT versus problems that your solution solves?
So you have so we started actually with not with ChatGPT. Actually, we started their model AI like OpenAI naming of the model is super confusing, right? So they call their ChatGPT, and then they call their models GPT-3 O3 whatever, right? So we started to work with the GPT 3.5 model with the API, but essentially what we had is a connection to a Google Sheets where we were prompting inside the Google Sheets one instructions and then connecting that other cell to another cell, so it will basically take the research from one agent and then work with it, right? So that's how we connected it. So it was a bit more sophisticated than ChatGPT, and that's the kind of segue to the answer to your question. So when you think about any kind of chat AI interface, it can be ChatGPT, Claude, or Perplexity, whatever. You start with a context window, and your context window by default is empty. And then you start to build the context. So you basically give your first instruction. If you are good at prompting, you're going to be like, or if you are, let's say, experienced with prompting, you're going to first create a role. So you're going to say, your role today is to be a great researcher, and you are going to do this. You are skilled at that. What's funny with AI as well is that you have these emotional layers that build confidence. So you could say like, you have 10 years of experience and you are really good at this. And if you want better results, you might even say, the impact of your research will have a tremendous, no, the quality of your research will have a tremendous impact on my career, and you're going to get better results
Oh
because you
wow, okay,
give
I didn't
that
know that.
emotional layer to the role, right? So, once you know about this kind of stuff, you can create really good role. And that's the first part of your context window. Then you maybe give the task and you're precise and like and so on and so forth. And then you get an output. And now your context window has a role and an output, and then you follow up with it. And then the context window gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the difference with when you work with a platform that we've built where you have this agentic, let's say, workflows and architecture already built in, is we made it so that inside the platform, you can create an intelligence for all the agents that is going to be centralized. So all of them will understand about your value prop. All of them will understand about your ICP verticals, your key accounts, and your persona. So when, let's say, you give a task to an agent, that context window is already filled with all of this information by default for all the agents. And then let's say tomorrow you update your product value prop, or you add a new feature or a new battle card, or you create a new persona. All your agents get that updated context window by default. And then, for example, what you can do is you have an agent that will be specialized at researching, I don't know, like one type of information on 10K reports or annual reports or on the internet and whatnot. And then you will have another agent that will take the same intelligence about the person and whatnot, plus the research from that other agents, and then do something else with it on top of it. And if you will want to do that on ChatGPT, it means that, and we see like very advanced, ChatGPT users having a library of prompts on a Google Doc or whatever document that they copy paste all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then they take another ChatGPT where they do some other task, and then they copy the output into the other one. And it's quite advanced already, but it's very painful. And at the end of the day, it doesn't make you more productive. Because the way you want to work with AI is you want to treat AI as a digital colleague. So essentially, you will have a digital colleague specialized in doing that research. You will have a digital colleague specialized in taking that research and turning it into something actionable. And if you want to trust your digital colleagues, they need to know your customer as well as you know, or even better than you
Mm-hmm.
know, right? And that's the default context window that we built with, again, value prop, ICP, and persona.
Awesome. Um, And so when I looked into your solution, and that was actually one of the things that really caught my attention because when I went to London in December, that's how I
Mm-hmm.
discovered you. I walked by your stand, and I think there were some things about like, oh, we will do the research for you, we will update all the
Yeah.
information for you, and then you said that you take all of these go-to-market data and you put it into execution. So how do you do that?
Yeah, so it's really like this orchestration really that you can do inside the platform. So you can think like you have the most important agents that are the one that first help you build the playbook. So what we talk about again, like so you put the
Mm-hmm.
value prop inside one part of the platform. So this is data that you already have internally and whatnot. Then you create these super granular ICP verticals and personas that you most likely already have in static documents, and you kind of accelerate the creation of those very detailed persona inside the platform. That's the first part, and we call it the GTM playbook agents. And then on the top of it, you create two type of agents that can qualify accounts and people into buckets of ICPs or personas. And then you have these other agents that some people call the signal research agents, or like the priority agents, or like the enrichment agents that can basically, for every company that match your ICP, research a specific data point. And then
Mm-hmm.
all of this, let's say, research that is contextualized because the agents understand the persona and the value prop. So they, instead of saying, "Oh, I found that this company has benefits on their website," it can actually know what benefits they have on their website. If you say an
Mm-hmm.
HR solution or something related to this,
Okay.
and then say that's how it correlates with your value prop, and then it can take, let's say, instructions about a cold email or a cold call opener and turn it into something meaningful based on that research. And all of this workflow that I described, it's already, I don't know, 3 to 5 different agents working together to make you more productive.
Yeah, so that actually sounds like it saves a lot of time. So in your experience, like on average, how much time can this save?
A minimum 6 hours per week per reps.
Okay, wow, that's great. And
Yeah.
so let's talk about like if the company has all of this research done by AI, right? You have all of this
Mm-hmm.
data, you have all of this background, and then what do you do with it? How do you actually use it to increase your sales or boost your
Yep.
revenue or have more upsells?
Yeah, so let's say for the new biz use cases, like to attract new customers, unfortunately today, AI has done more damage than anything positive to the sales profession because, as human being, we are lazy. And when we saw the possibility to generate content with AI, the first thing that everybody rushed into was to create cold emails. And so today, I mean, this morning alone, I don't know how many emails you deleted, but I think I already deleted 5 to 6 emails alone, right? And then as soon
Mhm.
as 5 p.m. comes in, which is, when the US wakes up in my time zone, that's when you get even more terrible cold emails, right? And so I think that's one of the problem is that you have to break through even more noise than before with outbound and newbie sales, and then buyers have this, you know, very, very, very negative image about salespeople because of all of that negative noise that has been created with Gen AI, right? So how it can help? It can help break through the noise, and of course you can do your best to turn all of that research into really, really, let's say, meaningful, context-based, pain-oriented, emails around your persona, and you might get, replies to those really, really good cold emails. But the reality is you're going to be part of all that terrible noise. So today, how ourselves we use it in our customers actually to create this super research-based cold call opener. So
Mhm.
when you call, like when your salespeople are cold calling, like the first 10 to 20 seconds are basically based on research that are contextualized around the pain of the persona. And people are surprised because they are used to receive that really canned script that people
Yeah,
just keeps on repeating that very generic and doesn't really resonate with them. It resonates with 2,000 people, right? And
absolutely.
and then that's not. And when you call on, you basically really kind of bring back all of the research that was done with your agents plus your playbook. Then it's really meaningful, and then you have talking points that are generated by AI. And if you will want to do this, let's say manually, it will take you hours and hours for each contact to do that research. And then, of course, because you only contact people that have been bucketed into your ICP verticals, into your persona, you're also working on a much, much higher list, quality than if it will be like, let's say, filtered just by job title and industries with the tools that we had yesterday, right? So, the combination of the quality of the list and the quality of outreach is basically how you can improve for the newbies part of the funnel.
So you're saying that that the research that the AI delivers can actually like personalize or hyper personalize the interactions?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's one of the goals. Yeah.
And so, how can you utilize that with existing customers? Because I
Yep.
understand the background with the new customers that it does research, gives you the best opportunities for new sales. But what
Yep.
about the existing customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think like we put so much effort, let's say in the past 6 to 7 years, to specialize the newbies sales team. And then we cannot forget that, especially with a complex product, like the same is happening after you bring the new business, where you need to expand the business. And it's exactly the same step as with outbound, where you need to do a lot of, research on the account,
Yeah.
try to understand. And every organization can fit in a different bucket, but they are still very different. And then so the what you will research and what you will find is going to be every single time within different type of buckets, but different type of information. You might also need to look for new stakeholders. You have your champion, and you can work with your champion, but it's not really likely that your champion will work for you. You still need to do the work, right?
Oh,
To
yeah.
kind of navigate the organizations and whatnot. So essentially, it's kind of not one-to-one similar, but it's still very similar because you have your internal insights about the account that can help you, let's say, go in one direction or the other about what product you want to upsell or what use case you want to build. So that's very different than when you're in newbies. But except that, everything else is still very, very similar. So I think that's how it can help CS. What's super, super, super important though, and even more strategic, is that when I do newbies, because that person doesn't know me, I need to gain their trust, right? I need
Oh,
to
yes.
have the permission to kind of get a little bit of their time, and then build that trust on until we close the deal. But once they are already a customer, they have already given you their trust, and if you really do terrible outreach, if you did really do like terrible research or no research and start spamming all of their colleagues, you are going to make your champion look bad. You're going to be like, who is this Michaela said that she knows, Sandra and the team, and now she's emailing everybody else with, I'm not saying, that's what you're doing, but that's how someone could look if they start automating everything without context or without research. They are going to be flagged, and then that other person that could be your champion will become your anti-champion because you make them look bad. And the other way around is if you use AI to do very, very deep research, then you sound like a peer to your champion's
Hmm.
colleague when you reach out to them, and then you make your champion looks good, right? Because you're like, wow, there is this super clever, salesperson that reached out and delivered a very nice insights about our company based on the research and how she worked with Sandra, and yeah, I would really love to talk to her, right? And you keep on building on more trust instead of challenging the trust that was given to you.
Sorry, I'm smiling because this resonated with me so deeply. I had that experience actually a couple of months ago that I was talking with a salesperson, and all of a sudden, like three of my other colleagues came to me and they were like, "Oh, I got this message on LinkedIn. Other one got a message on
Mm.
Outlook," and it was just like, why are they reaching to everyone else when they're already talking to me? Like, what's the point? So yeah, I totally get that.
There you go. Okay.
So my question for you is, maybe I have just this crazy vision what AI can do, but
Yeah.
let's say if I have you know 2,000, 3,000 accounts, right?
Yes.
Obviously I can't know every champion in
No.
person, and something is happening. So I don't know, the company is bought by a different company, they do acquisition, or they go
Yeah.
into bankruptcy, or there is a new CEO. Can AI actually find it out and let me know?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. That's actually a very, very good use case.
Okay, so that actually happens, and you can get all of that information without searching it yourself and then utilize it.
Yes, exactly. And like that's a perfect use case. And this is also the really good use case of the difference between data and context. Because the data will be like you get an email with an automatic trigger like that a keyword was found, M&A, bankrupt, But with AI, like if it's bankrupt, there's not much you can do. But if it's an M&A, like it will actually, the AI agents can already tell you why this M&A is relevant and how it can help you to create an upsell, or why it is actually dangerous for you, and why you need to also reach out and make sure that you implement XYZ action plan. Um, and that's what's going to change the game with AI, is that it doesn't just find data, it contextualizes it for you, because if you give it this intelligence, it can behave like your digital colleague.
Yeah, so that was actually my thought, because a lot of times I feel like the decision makers that actually make a decision like, oh, we are going to get that AI solution, they are
Yep.
either CROs, or different revenue officers, or even the
Yep.
CEO. And from big part, what they think about is like, oh, what is going to be my ROI? What revenue can I get by implementing this?
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously having clean data, that's everyone's dream, right? Kind
Yep.
of unachievable, but everyone's dream. But then like, what you can do with the data? And if you have this all of this information, so can AI actually like give you a recommendation that because this happened on this account, we think it's good you reach out and sell them more?
Yeah. If again, like you need to think of AI like digital colleagues. So if you create an agent that does exactly, I mean, with the role and like let's say this type of task that
Mm-hmm.
you just described, yes, it can do it. But you need to set up that workflow where you have these autonomous agents that look for or monitors this M&A signal, and then you need to have another agents that retake all of the contextualized research from the M&A signals, and according to XYZ, it's gonna give you again some um, action plan based
Mm-hmm.
on the research that was done by those agents. So that's how you'll make it work. And
And
again,
in
because
your
these two agents understand your persona, value prop, and all of
Mhm.
that, which is again important for the context window, you will trust their output, because they will think like you,
Oh, that's true. And
which is important as well, obviously.
if you have all of this data, how do you actually teach people how to work with it? Because it's
Yeah,
great to have all of this, but then that action needs to be taken by a human. So how do you train people, or how do you recommend to companies you work with that
yeah.
they train their folks?
So we really recommend like so it's a digital transformation. So most of us we look at agentic or AI like a software, and this is wrong
Hmm.
for so many reasons. Because when you set up a software, you basically like this recording studio that we're using, you just set up everything and then it works, and there is not much that you need to do, right? But when you set up an agentic workflow, you essentially create bunch of digital colleagues, and if you don't give them work, nothing's going to happen.
Hmm.
So it's a new workflow, it's a new way of working where every day you need to work with those agents, right? And see them as digital colleagues, and then sometimes you need to give feedback or improve the agents to make them better. And sometimes some agents you will not need them, so you can just put them on the shelf, right, and create a new one. But essentially, you really need to work with it. So it's not like a software where you just set it up once and then it's working. You really need to kind of think like, okay, now we want to do this. Tomorrow we want to achieve X, Y, Z of revenues. What agents are we going to need in our team? And like, I just came back from a conference last week, and for the first time, I started when people ask me how many people you have in your team, I started talking about our team, 16 people, and the agents, 42. And it sounded very weird. People didn't know how to react. It was like, what do you mean 42 agents? Like support agents? Like, no, no, AI agents. Because that's actually our team. If you remove these agents from our GTM teams, we are so in it, like we are going to be stuck for days. We don't know how to do, many part of our process without those agents. So, that's really how you need to think. So typically when we onboard people, we're like, okay, let's, decide an outcome and then let's agree what type of agents do we need to achieve that outcomes. And then it's a new workflow where they start working together with humans and agents as part of the team.
Oh, I love that perspective. It's so different. I've never actually heard this from anyone, referring to AI as your actual colleagues, or
Yeah.
counting them. I love that.
Yeah. And I think it sounds so futuristic today. And I'm pretty sure in, maybe a couple of months, maybe a couple of years, depending on, what type of companies you work with, it's going to be super common that companies describe their workforce with humans and agents.
And from your experience, those agents, so in a normal 8-hour workday, that a human can do, how many hours does this AI agent work for 8 human hours?
I mean, it really depends on the complexity of the workflow. But again, like what happened to us back in November 23, it was crazy. It was 1 week of work, 1 week of research in 20 minutes.
Okay, so that's
That's
quite
like
a difference.
100x. Yeah.
And if we are talking about money, how much revenue were you able to, and not just in your company, but on
Yeah.
average with the companies that you work with, what percentage of revenue increase could you see?
Well, there is so many stuff, let's say, in motion, like when you compare. So let's say if we remove all the manual research and
Mm-hmm.
you are talking about newbies, right? That's
Yeah.
30 to 50% of the time that salespeople, if they do account based and they sell a complex product, they'll spend 30 to 50% of the time on research. So if you
Mm-hmm.
remove this, you make them twice more efficient, right? If they are
Okay.
twice more efficient, then they can spend twice more time in the part of the process that add value instead of the research, right? And so there is that piece. Now, the sad reality as well is that 69% of the reps did not achieve their quota in 2024. It was a research done by Pavilion and some other organization, ETSA, I think, that was published last year. So the reality that is so many organizations have to try to solve this problem have just thrown a lot of tools, some of them with AI features
Mhm.
at the sales team to try to fix this. It didn't work. So now you have 69% of your workforce that doesn't achieve quota, and you have so many tools that you try to implement to fix that problem that doesn't really work. So you pay a lot for tools and you pay a lot for headcounts that do not achieve quota. And the reality, obviously, is you are going to AI enable people to be more efficient with AI. So you're actually going to need less people. You're going to need less
Hmm.
tools because
Yeah.
also the difference with sales tools is that AI agents, they don't need seats. You don't need to buy 5 seats for your 42, like 42 seats
Good
for your
point.
42 agents, right? They need access to APIs, and it's kind of built in into how we design the platform. So you actually need less seats to all those platforms. Some of them you don't need them anymore. So you have a much leaner sales team where every single part of the team is supported by agents that can work with all the team, and that's the efficiency. So how we measure it is the cost per $1 of revenue. So with the
Hmm.
old model, if you are at 1 to 1, it's actually good according to the benchmark. If you are like close to 1, it's actually standard. And most of the companies today are spending more than $1 to acquire $1 of revenue. But with AI, if you build the model, and I can share the framework afterwards, from the very beginning, you can actually achieve 0.25 cents for $1 of revenue.
Oh,
Um, and
wow.
and that's like most of the time is 3 to 5 times more efficient than any other newbies GTM engine.
Oh, that's great. So, if any of our listeners wanted to have a chat with you or learn more about what we just discussed, where can they find you?
Yeah, so they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm JB, and then they can write Evergrowth because my last name is too complicated, probably for them to find. It's Daguené. So JB Evergrowth, they should be able to find me, and then of course they can also go to evergrowth.com directly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, JB. This was great. I loved your perspective on AI, some great information. I'm sure our listeners will see a lot of value and learn a lot. So, again, I really appreciate you coming by today, and hopefully, we'll be able to talk again soon with some great updates.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Michaela. It was really
Thank you so
nice.
much.
Enjoyed chatting with you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's special episode of Retain and Gain. If you want to learn more about AI and how it redefines the world of pulse sales, make sure to subscribe. Until next time.